Chapter 24 to 25, Taroa Island to stunning view. On this occasion, Pride has opted for an alternative approach. The process of navigating the ship into port and navigating through the bustling crowds demands a significant amount of time and patience, prompting a decision to pursue a more efficient course of action. As soon as he caught sight of the island and its harbor, he altered his course. The boat began to circumnavigate the harbor in order to access a more secluded location. "Quite amusing indeed," he remarked to himself. "I have completed a full circuit around the island, yet I see no trace of any other pirate ships. Do they have the ability to render themselves invisible, or perhaps they simply anchor their vessels at a distance and approach the island by alternative means? Regardless, it matters little to me." Upon reaching the shore on the opposite side, Pride noted the complete absence of civilization. Not a single trace of human activity could be seen in the surrounding area. Merely a few meters above the sea level, a direct interface with the forested terrain began. TRK. He and his boat were suddenly enshrouded in a purple sphere, and soon after, they began to levitate off the ground. After ascending a few meters into the air, they descended with a gentle touch onto a grassy landing spot. "Given that docking my boat is not an option, it would be prudent for me to conceal it," he thought to himself. Although Pride remained uncertain about the specific identity of the island he had landed on, he surmised that it must be fairly sizable, as even his extensive observations hockey could only encompass a portion of its terrain. While scanning the area, he detected a multitude of life auras emanating from a diverse array of sources, including humans, animals, and plants. After successfully concealing his boat within a spacious thicket, Pride set out towards the city. His hunger had intensified to an extreme level, as he had gone without enough sustenance throughout his entire journey from Reverse Mountain to his final destination. As Pride drew nearer to his destination, the piercing sound reverberated all around him. Pride's expression began to soften into a small grin. "Ah, how I've missed the forests," he sighed, taking in the natural surroundings with a sense of nostalgia. The town was a sight to behold, with all of its buildings constructed in the style of ancient Greek architecture. Each house and structure was meticulously adorned with beautiful, artistic paintings that added to the town's charm and character. "Come and try the best bread in town. Don't miss out, or you'll regret it," exclaimed the vendor enthusiastically, beckoning passersby to come and sample the delicious baked goods. As Pride made his way into the town, the air was filled with the sound of similar lively shouts coming from various vendors and shopkeepers vying for the attention of potential customers. Ancient Greek. I think Oda really has a fetish when it comes to combining one piece with history. The town was bustling with activity, teeming with people from all walks of life. Small children laughed and grinned as they ran through the streets, while vendors enthusiastically sold their wares from colorful stalls lining the roads. Despite the cheerful atmosphere, the occasional Marine soldier could be seen patrolling the area, a reminder of the ongoing conflict and the ever-present danger that lurked beyond the island's borders. Pride stopped one of the people passing by to get a better sense of the town and its inhabitants. "Excuse me, could you recommend a good place to dine around here?" The stranger that Pride had stopped peered into his eyes, taking a moment to assess him before responding. "Of course, if you keep walking straight, you'll see a tavern on your right called Prim's Pub. I tell you, the food and liquor are incredible. I highly recommend going there to eat," the stranger replied with a friendly smile, happy to assist Pride with his inquiry. As the stranger told Pride about Prim's Pub, a look of sheer delight crossed his face, and he grinned from ear to ear. His enthusiasm was contagious, and Pride couldn't help but feel his own excitement building at the prospect of trying the food and drink at this recommended spot. He could almost swear that the stranger was already drooling as he spoke, like someone who had just been gifted one of the great grade swords. After finishing his recommendation and regaining his bearings, the stranger bid farewell to Pride and continued on his way through the busy streets. Pride could hardly contain his excitement as he made his way to Prim's Pub, his anticipation growing with each step as he eagerly anticipated the promised delicious food and drink. After a few minutes, Pride arrived at Prim's Pub. The definition of a pub, I understand, is different though. As Pride approached the spot that the stranger had recommended, he realized that what he saw in front of him was not exactly what he had been expecting. Rather than a traditional pub, the establishment was a relatively spacious restaurant, measuring approximately 50 meters wide and 30 meters in length. The building's exterior was made of brownish wood and adorned with mosaics and carvings, giving it an old-fashioned look. The atmosphere outside was lively, with people talking and laughing as they enjoyed their meals and drinks. Despite the unexpected difference in the venue, Pride couldn't help but feel drawn in by the warmth and cheerfulness of the scene. As Pride stepped inside the restaurant, he quickly realized that the place was completely filled with patrons. The front half of the establishment was set up like a traditional restaurant, with tables and chairs arranged for guests to sit and dine at. The back half, on the other hand, was designed like a classic tavern, with standing tables, regular seats, and a seating section that faced the bar counter. A pretty interesting concept. Pride was fascinated by the interior design of the restaurant, which was completely new to him. He had never seen anything like that in either his current or previous world. The mix of a traditional tavern and modern restaurant elements was both intriguing and welcoming. Pride snapped out of his thoughts and turned his attention to a voice that had just rung out in the crowded establishment. "Good day and a warm welcome to Prim's Pub. We would be delighted if you could take a seat on the left-hand side. Thank you for choosing to dine with us today." Pride, having been led, then sat down. "Should I wait here or pass by later?" said the waiter after handing Pride the menu. Pride glanced briefly at the menu without paying much attention, and then handed it back to the waiter. "I would like to order 5 servings of your most popular dish and 2 jars of your finest alcoholic beverage, please." The waiter's eyes revealed a hint of excitement as he noticed the customer's lack of concern for the prices. The waiter grinned and thanked Pride for his order, but politely requested that he wait patiently as it may take some time to prepare. Unable to resist his curiosity, Pride stood up from his seat and made his way toward the nearest occupied table. Respecting the privacy of the other customers, Pride refrained from interrupting their conversation and patiently waited until he caught their attention. The 4 people at the table turned their heads toward Pride and gave him a strange look. Pride's unintentionally imposing height of nearly 2 meters gave him a fearsome presence, even without his sword, which was safely sheathed in its scabbard. "Is there anything we can help you with?" Pride's face lit up at the offer of assistance, and he grinned broadly at the person who spoke. Pride replied with gratitude, "I appreciate your kindness, and I promise I won't take up too much of your time. I simply have a question. What is the name of the island we are currently on?" The 4 people at the table exchanged a strange look with each other, each thinking the same thing. How could that idiot end up on this island and not even know its name? Of course, what they expressed was quite different. The person sitting to Pride's right gave a strange grin with half-closed eyes and scratched the back of his head with one arm. We're on the island of Taroa," he replied. "Oh, thank you very much." Pride, who moved back to his seat, merely shook his head. As he made his way back to his seat, he overheard one of them asking the others if he was mentally ill for not knowing the name of the island they were on. Well, he couldn't blame them either. I mean, a person ends up on an island, dines in a restaurant, and still doesn't know where he is? After Pride settled back into his seat, he reflected on the words spoken by the person. "In my past, I used to browse on One Piece forums, but I'm not familiar with the island of Taroa. I do know that Byron, a future pirate, came from there and was born into a family of musicians. He eventually set sail for the Grand Line, but unfortunately, he was captured and later sold into slavery." As Pride was lost in thought, someone approached him. 5 plates of our best dish, the sukiyaki, as well as our best booze. It was stored for a long time, and I can assure you that it will have a very intense taste." After setting the dishes down, the waiter smiled and lingered around, perhaps to ensure that everything was to Pride's liking. Pride glanced over at the waiter, noticing his lingering presence. "Please feel free to try it yourself. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the dish." Pride examined the plate closely and was impressed with how delicious it looked. Upon closer inspection, he was able to identify some of the ingredients, but there were a few that remained a mystery to him. He then asked the waiter, "Could you tell me more about the ingredients in this dish?" The waiter replied, "Certainly. Our signature sukiyaki dish is made with imported elephant meat, mushrooms, konjac roots, and leafy vegetables. It's all cooked together in a traditional fire pot, which gives it a unique and delicious flavor. But now taste it already. I have to get back to work. Hee. Munch." Pride savored the flavors of the sukiyaki and was pleased with how it tasted. "This is amazing," he thought to himself as the food melted in his mouth. He then took a sip of the aged alcohol and was equally impressed by its excellent taste. Pride agreed with the waiter's recommendation and spoke with a half-filled mouth. "You were right. The food and the booze are both magnificent. Thank you for the excellent recommendation. Please excuse me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay," said the waiter as he left. Pride had already finished 3 out of the 5 plates. "I always seem to enjoy the taste of food whenever I eat at a restaurant or similar venue. It makes me excited to think about trying Sanji's food in the future." A short time later, it was as if the waiter who had served Pride could sense that he was getting ready to leave. The waiter approached Pride, who stood up and began searching for his belly notes. "I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed your meal. Your total bill comes to 30,000 bellies." The waiter bit his tongue, wondering, will he get angry and start yelling at me because the price is so high? Or worse, is he going to attack me? He doesn't exactly seem like the most innocent person. Pride pulled out 35,000 bellies from his coat and handed it over to the waiter, saying, "The change is yours." The fact that he didn't get angry and even left a 5,000 belly tip? Should I give him a hug or kiss him on the cheek? No, let's forget about that quickly. I need to maintain my professionalism, thought the waiter. The waiter smiled broadly and straightened his collar, thanking Pride. "It's all part of my duties, but the tip is much appreciated." "Thank you, sir." Before Pride could say anything, the waiter snatched the money out of his hand and quickly began counting it. After counting the 5,000 berries, he swiftly pocketed the money. Pride looked at the waiter with raised eyebrows but didn't say anything. He turned around to leave the place without another word. "Have a great day, sir. We look forward to your next visit," the waiter called out to Pride as he left. As he departed from the location, he became aware that nightfall was drawing near. The bustling crowds that had once filled the streets and the city began to dwindle, creating a more tranquil atmosphere. "I've become accustomed to the forests by now. Staying in a lodging just doesn't provide the same level of comfort that I'm used to for spending the night." Pride was resolute in his decision to spend his time on Taroa Island, nestled within the forest. As he approached the expanse of the forest, Pride's observations hockey allowed him to discern the presence of two life auras. It appears that there are other individuals who also spend their nights in the forest. However, both life auras are surprisingly weak, Pride mused to himself. As darkness began to envelop the forest, the shrill sounds of rustling bushes could be heard. Intrigued, Pride made his way toward the location of the two individuals. As Pride approached a slightly larger clearing in the forest, he noticed a makeshift wooden structure standing in the center. A bonfire blazed nearby, and two children sat around it, roasting an animal they had hunted earlier. The children appeared to be around 10 and 5 years old respectively, and were relishing their meal until they suddenly heard a loud rustling of branches. As they turned their attention to the source of the noise, they noticed a tall man emerging from the surrounding foliage. Fear seized the children, their minds racing with the thought of the countless individuals who sought to capture them for slavery. Had they not fled far enough? They had hoped that they would find refuge in the forest, but now those dreams seemed to be slipping away. Armed with his handmade spear, the boy positioned himself in front of his younger sister, determined to protect her at all costs. "Who are you and what brings you here?" the boy demanded, holding his spear aloft in a defensive stance. As he gazed at the boy standing protectively in front of his sister, Pride felt a twinge of nostalgia wash over him. This situation reminded him of his own past, and how he had tried to shield his own sister from harm with all his might. A sad smile spread across his face as he raised his arms in a non-threatening gesture. "I'm sorry if I scared you. I didn't mean to cause any harm. I simply got lost in the woods," he said reassuringly. "I'll be on my way now, and I promise I won't trouble you any further." As Pride departed from the clearing, a sense of guilt gnawed at him. What if the children were still feeling insecure and decided to leave because of his sudden appearance? What if something were to happen to them? Though he was not a righteous person, nor did he hesitate to kill, his vulnerability lay in his soft spot for children, especially when they reminded him of himself. Pride walked for a short while until he reached the spot where he had left his boat. He pulled it out from the bushes and spread his sleeping blanket on the deck. Lying down with his legs crossed, he gazed up at the magnificent night sky. The stars shimmered and glittered, stretching out as far as the eye could see, their brilliance enhanced by the presence of a bright crescent moon. Indeed, moments like these remind us of the beauty and magnificence of nature, and the importance of taking time to appreciate the world around us. Even amidst the struggles and challenges of life, it is essential to take a step back and bask in the wonder of the natural world, if only for a moment. With a slight smirk on his face, Pride closed his eyes, allowing himself to fully immerse in the tranquility of the moment. The gentle lapping of the water against the sides of the boat and the rustling of leaves in the forest were the only sounds that could be heard, creating a peaceful atmosphere that was almost meditative.